This $3 part could potentially save you hundreds of dollars. Our microwave just recently broke and is behaving in a possessed kind of way. When you open the door, it seems as if the microwave starts running all by itself. Now, we've probably all been in a situation where something breaks, you don't know what's going on or how to fix it, but you'd rather not spend like $100 just for a diagnosis and who knows how much more to fix it. In this video, I want to show you some DIY tips that I use to solve problems like this and also explain what's going on with this microwave.
So my wife first noticed this, and it may seem scary because you don't want to be getting zapped with microwaves when the doors open, but I'll explain why this is not happening and why this is a relatively simple repair. Let's start with this diagram that's similar to how most microwaves are electrically set up. This may look intimidating, but I'll explain. We're going to use the information we know, like Sherlock Holmes, to deduce the problem. Power comes in over here, and we know that the way it normally works is when the door is open, the light's supposed to come on, but the turntable and blower fan are not supposed to come on. So what we need to look for is a reason for why the turntable and the fan might be getting power. If we make an observation on this diagram, we can see 3 switches, and the thing that makes the microwaves is called the magnetron. These switches are set up in a way to prevent the possibility that the magnetron could get power when the doors open. Let's look at the top switch first. It's drawn with the switch open, which indicates that when the door is open, this switch should not let power get through. And right here, when this switch is closed, is how we can see that the fan motor and turntable should get their power.
So here's what one of these normally open switches looks like. There's 2 leads and a switch, actual physical switch at the top. I have my meter in continuity mode, so it'll beep when there's an electrical connection. So if I have these on both of these leads, you don't hear any beep because it's normally open. And so when the door closes on the microwave, you can hear the beep.
So this primary interlock switch is likely the culprit. Also notice that the light gets power before the switch, and there's a relay down on the control board that gets information from the secondary switch that controls whether the light comes on or not when the door opens. And the purpose of the monitor switch is in case both other door switches fail, it will blow the fuse as a safety feature and not allow you to produce microwaves.
So besides the diagram being Sherlock Holmes, there's another clue that we can use to help us understand that the microwaves are not being produced in this scenario. So I'm going to open the door and listen for a buzz sound. So if you heard a buzz sound, that was just sort of the fan wobbling. You don't hear that. Now listen when I press the start button. About 2 seconds after I press it, you'll hear a kind of a buzzing noise, a little ramp up buzzing noise. So did you hear that?
I know it's hard to hear, so let me repeat the clip a few times.
So did you hear that? About 2 seconds, you hear a zzz, and that is the magnetron powering up and producing microwaves. So to fix this thing, we need to get behind this keypad right here. You need to use common sense, and you also need to turn off the power to the microwave when you're going to work on it. So that's either flipping the breaker, or if you have a smart sub panel like I do, I can just use my phone to turn off the power. So you saw some of the lights went off and there's no power going to this microwave now. Now your microwave may be a little bit different, especially if it's a countertop unit, but these over the range ones are generally the same. There's some screws up here that we have to take out, and there's usually a screw right underneath here on the bottom side that we have to take out to get to the control panel. Then we can remove this trim piece. So apparently this model has 2 extra screws in addition to the one below the keypad. There's one right here, and there's one behind this plastic that I can get to with a screwdriver. So with the screws removed, all we have to do is lift this up and it'll just come right out. Don't yank on it because there's some connections here that we have to unhook first. So you can see all the wires that go to the main board. Make sure you take a picture at this point so you know how to put everything back together, and carefully disconnect each one of these to remove the control panel. So if you're curious, here's the whole control panel. This is the board itself. This is the brains of your microwave. Most of what's on here are relay switches, the on-off switches that control everything. And then this green cable right here is what goes to the keypad in the front.
While I was making this video, I noticed the neighbor throwing away a microwave. And though I didn't have a chance to talk with them, it was a reminder that some people spend hundreds on new appliances when they might be able to fix it for a few dollars.
So hopefully this doesn't look too intimidating. I just had to disconnect these 4 connectors and the ground. And even if you didn't take a picture, usually these connections are different sizes, so you could figure out pretty easily how to connect it back up to the board. Next, I have to remove these 2 screws, which are T15, to get access to the door switches. There's just a plastic assembly here that we just lift up and we can move it around to the side. To test these 3 switches, you can put your multimeter in continuity setting and push the button like I showed you earlier. You can also test the sort of the physical aspect of the button. Does it click really well? And on this one, this switch down here, the button is not satisfactory. It's not really clicking very much. And I can tell there's clearly a problem with this switch. Compared to this switch, I get a nice firm click. So this is the one that has the problem. So removing this one is pretty easy. We'll just take off the bottom connector and the top. In order to get the switch out of this plastic housing, there's a little retainer clip right here. If I pull that open, I can pull it out. And taking a closer look at just using this button, it kind of feels like I'm pushing into Jello. It's not really a firm click. Let's test the replacement before I put it in there. It's supposed to be normally open, so you don't hear any beep. And when I push the button, very firm click. So this is what we need. All right, now we're gonna do everything in reverse order. Put this in here, make sure this little plastic piece is up, retaining clip goes back in, and this one goes on the top. And if I needed to refer to it, I could look at my picture, and this one goes on to the bottom. Now we just tuck this in. There's a little plastic here that hangs on the metal frame, and the holes should line up, and then you know you've got it in the right spot. And we're putting these screws back in. I'm holding the plastic to make sure it stays aligned as I'm tightening them. So here's what one of these switches looks like on the inside. You can just pop off this plastic, and you can see it's normally open. This is not connecting here, but when we press this down, it's connecting right here. Now, something you can do if you're ordering a new one of these and it's going to take a while before it shows up and you still want to use your microwave, is that you can bend the piece of metal right up in here. And this is the spring. I'm touching it right now. That's the spring that pops it back up, and probably the thing that breaks the most on these. And so if I were to take the spring out, it's not even going to pop back up again. And so there's a little bit of click. You can see the weakness in there, and that's because this spring is kind of bent poorly. And so it's possible I could pull it out and bend it back temporarily, put it in there, and get it going again. I have another one where I did that. It completely did not work at all, and I bent it back, and you can see it's kind of working. So I like when things are designed for repair. Check this out. If you let this go, it can hold itself up because of the plastic in there, and that's going to allow me to connect this ground cable and pretty easily connect these other cables back up to the board. To get this piece on, you put it in the corner and then slide it over, and then reinstall these 3 screws on the top. Okay, now the moment of truth. I haven't tested this out yet, but I assume it will work, but I hope I've inspired you to give this a try yourself. I'll just turn the power back on. Okay, the lights came on. There's power going to the microwave. So let's open the door. Aha, the turntable and fan are not automatically going, so that's really good. That's what we want to hear, normal behavior. Let's start the microwave. Listen for the buzz. There's the buzz. There's the buzz. So we have fixed our microwave. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you like repair projects like this, check out this video over here.